remember sitting in a typography lecture back in my TAFE study days, learning all about baselines and tittles and thinking, yeah, this is cool, but no one is ever actually going to pay me money for this, surely. I mean, it was so niche. We were learning everything about type, like the difference between a serif and a sans serif, the importance of glyphs, all the way down to like the little intricacies of kerning pairs. You know, overshoots, all of that stuff. It was all so specific for the people who were actually learning about typography. And don't get me wrong, I loved learning about it too. I'm a bit of a type nerd myself. But what about the people who would end up being my future clients? Would they care about the importance of a consistent downstroke or find the joy in an alternate swash or ligature? Yeah, probably not. Unless they were learning the things that I was learning in that TAFE classroom, or maybe they had a friend who would like get all uppity about certain fonts not being used in certain ways. They probably wouldn't know the difference between an overturn and an underturn. To the uninformed client, typography is just picking a font from a drop-down menu. Making the choice between Calibri or Helvetica is about as far as most clients would generally go when it comes to understanding typography. And don't even get me started on the inevitable, oh, you like lettering? Isn't that just a font? Spare me. And honestly, why should they know? And why should they care? So often clients that I work with as a designer actually don't care about the particular things I know and that are important to me as a creative. They're skills that I've taken time to learn, time to grow, but they absolutely care about their own problems and how those things that I know can help them solve those problems. And it's not just about typography and lettering, but everything that I bring to the table as a creative. To me, a creative is someone who solves a problem in a non-traditional way, that they use that creativity as a way to find solutions or look for alternative ways to do things and try and find and create something that didn't exist yesterday. In case you haven't met me, hi, I'm Jazz, pricing queen to my students and design superwoman to my clients. After serving hundreds of clients a smorgasbord of creativity for well over a decade, I finally felt ready last year to say, okay, it's time to teach the recipes of pricing to other creatives. I want to be that person that I needed when I was going through the early stages of my creative career. That creative who had no idea how to price anything and constantly doubted her value. I've helped hundreds of students master their creative methods, calculate their rates, and nail their pricing, including some of my fellow speakers here today at Typism. And I'm proud to share that with you. Almost every creative I've met is discounting their worth before they even serve their genius, and I'm passionate about changing that recipe for success. It's been about 15 years since I sat in that typography classroom for the first time, learning all the lessons I needed to so I could confidently craft type, as well as the other subjects that my studies covered. The lessons that I've learned in those 15 years since have only added to and refined what I now know. And I kind of feel like I've seen almost everything when it comes to pricing, quoting, and building creative business. From building large-scale installations to intricate paintings, designing and delivering national brand rollouts, as well as crafting some pretty beautiful personal commissions. I feel like I've tasted the rainbow, and now I get to share the flavors with you. Now, when you first read the title of this talk, it might have seemed like a bit of a weird combination. Like, how do those two fit together? But like some of the greatest flavour combinations, peanut butter and Nutella, or Macca's chips and a chocolate sundae, when you see these two come together, it's all going to make sense. So let's dig into the 10 things type taught me about pricing. Let's start with some style, shall we? Serif, sans serif, black letter, display, handwritten, calligraphic, and plenty more. There is so many different styles and categories and flavours of lettering and typography, each with their different ideal use. And the same can be said for your pricing styles. You're probably pretty familiar with hourly pricing, but there's also project, licensing, creative retainers, and even value-based pricing. By having a wide range of different styles of pricing to charge your clients, this gives you a greater opportunity for you to work with the client on pricing their work. I've had clients in the past that freak out over a $5,000 bill, But as soon as I've changed the way I style and serve the pricing and offer as a payment plan, it's way more digestible and I get the job. Win. Next, let's talk about baselines. When we talk about them in the typography world, they're that shelf where all the letters sit. And these can be straight, bouncy, curved, anything that the person who is creating or designed the piece chooses. But that's the important thing here. It's them who chooses where the baseline is. When pricing creative work, I highly recommend knowing what your baseline is, your lowest amount that you need to make and are willing to accept for the job to ensure that it's still profitable for you and for everyone else. You need to know your baseline of what you'll accept. Stick to it and don't try and shift it too much. Set the standard, stick to it. This leads me to structure. When you first start sketching any lettering piece, you might start with a structure to help you guide and create that framework or that plan for the piece. Maybe you've used a letter builder, like one of the ones that my fellow Typism Summit speakers have created. You know that it's important to build that structure because you've learnt that consistency matters, and you want this to be a successful lettering piece, right? So the pricing structures that you create for your business and for your clients is just as important as that of the structure of a lettering piece. To be able to confidently tell a client, this is how much this project will cost, you need to know why it costs that and what's the structure behind it, so that if the client does come back with questions, you aren't damaging the pricing structure by discounting for no good reason. Your pricing structures are there to clarify your costs for you, so you can find confidence in your costs. One of the first things you'll learn as a student of type is those different anatomical names of the letters and the elements surrounding it. You learn what a baseline is, what a cap height is, how to recognize different fonts and styles, and within that, there's 3 terminologies that you're probably pretty familiar with by now. That would be the ascender, the descender, and the X height. You probably already know this, but just in case, an ascender is anything that ascends above, like a H, a K, or an F. Descenders are the opposite of this, and they descend below, like a J, a Y, or a G. Which leaves us with the X height, where all most of the characters are kept. Now, I know one of the biggest fears of going freelance is cash flow. What if I don't make enough money? And I will tell you right now that there's definite highs and lows, more cashed up months and months where I make less. Understanding that the low months will happen and preparing for them by creating a bit of a buffer or implementing things like retainers can help soften the blow. Now, if you've ever downloaded or purchased a font from a foundry, and then another one from a free site, you will know that not all fonts are created equal, nor do they have the same value. Some have glyphs, others end up having missing characters, and some are simply just not worth even a free download. The same can be said for jobs, clients, projects. I can honestly say that I've never had 2 that are exactly the same deliverables, outcomes, or price. Every single one is different, so they should be approached differently. And I'm not just saying whether you charge hourly or project rates, but charging depending on the client or company you're serving. Now, this isn't greedy. You're not greedy for this. But because the end result is different depending on the client themselves, it should be approached differently. Put it this way. Say you had a lettering job and one is for a grocery store down the road and the other for a massive corporate business. On the surface, they look like they want the same thing, but the value of the outcome is different. The potential of your work being featured more prominently as part of the corporate definitely holds a higher price tag. And if you were to charge that high price tag to the grocer, it might actually put them out of business. Sometimes the value changes not as a result of the time it takes, but because of the impact that it makes. And because each lettering project can be different and with its own set of deliverables or clients that it serves, I've made this free lettering pricing calculator. I love a good calculator to do the maths and measurements for me, to help me make sense of the prices that I charge, and this one is no different. So if you head to easyasPiePricing.com/lettering, you can access this calculator that will make the pricing process for your lettering pieces as easy as following a recipe. Now, if you were to type in the search bar for hand-lettered fonts on somewhere like Creative Market or any website that sells fonts, a lot of the results end up looking kind of the same. As soon as you start scrolling through, you're looking for something that's standing out, that jumps out at you, is unique, and that makes the choice for you. The same should be said for your prices. If you're pricing like everyone else, you are begging your client to compare you to everyone else. And then they just end up comparing prices. Instead, by pricing differently to those around you that you see as similar, maybe position yourself as the more expensive but higher quality option, you help your ideal customer make a choice rather than a comparison. And as long as you can deliver on that quality as part of your service, you're golden. Now, at the core of any lettering, typography, calligraphy, or hand-lettered piece is the inevitable question, but can you read it? I remember when I was creating one of my pieces that was featured in Typism Book 6, We Rise by Lifting Others. The complexity of taking illustrations of hands and overlaying them throughout the piece, whilst also trying to maintain the ability for it to be read and understood, was a balance that I had to tread carefully. I wanted to make sure that it communicated not only the words on the page, but also the message behind the words. When someone asks you what your prices are or tells you that you're too expensive, you need to get confident with the communicating what your value is and why your value is. Communication is key, after all. You need to be legible to be profitable. Communicate your value clearly so that you can charge well. Now, you and I both know that there are rules that type has that we need to learn and follow so we can better develop the skills and muscle memory of what looks good and know why it looks good too. Understanding when to swap out a ligature or when it's a good idea to try a certain style can make or break a piece itself. And the same can be said for the process of working with clients. There is some rules that you need to follow and you need to know when to follow them, like the best way to step through the process or when to get the deposit, and understanding that the recipe gives you a better chance of that project turning out perfectly baked. Now, if you're a Typism VIP, you will find as part of your bundle that you now have access to my latest product, Recipe for Serving Clients. It's a step-by-step guide to help you serve your clients and master your methods when it comes to the way that you and your clients work together. I hope you enjoy that meal. It's a bit of a delicious one. Now, it takes practice to get good at any skill, be it lettering, illustration, design, and even pricing. Believe me when I say it didn't always come naturally, and I didn't always have the confidence to charge $10,000 for projects or negotiate on specifics with clients that are literally paying thousands of dollars to work with me. But just like practicing your skills and drills with lettering, the same can be said for when you are practicing and negotiating your skills or getting confident enough to explain why your rates are your rates. I won't sit here and tell you it's easy. It's not. But if you keep practicing at it, be it pointed pen calligraphy or project pricing, you will get better if you keep practicing. Now, I hate to say it, but people will almost always underestimate how much actually goes into creating a lettering piece. They don't see the sheets of paper or tracing paper or bank paper, or the countless double tap undos that go into crafting something with passion and creativity. And when they underestimate, it's inevitable that they will undervalue you. It's up to you to know and understand what's involved in what you do so you can set your prices and confidently communicate them. Now, before I wrap up for today, I wanted to share with you one last story. When I was about a year or two into my freelance career, I had this one particular client who needed a hand-lettered logo for her brand. She loved my style and asked if I would create it for her. And naturally, being new in the game, I jumped at the opportunity. I dove into sketching. I spent, I think, a good 10 hours on creating what I believe was the best hand-lettered logo that captured her brand and style. I remember proudly presenting it to her and she was thrilled, sending me all the heart eye emojis. It was awesome. Win, right? But when I sent her the bill, she was less than impressed. I can even remember the messages that she sent back. It was pages long and it cut my confidence to the bone. If I could go back to the creative that sat there reading the feedback, tears rolling down my face and taking every word to heart, I would say that some clients are simply not meant for you. That just because you have had a difficult time with a difficult client doesn't mean that you aren't a talented lettering artist. But the most important thing to take from an experience like this is to learn from it, to change the approach and work out how to charge for your lettering the right way next time. And in a Typism Summit exclusive, today I open up the pre-sale for the course that would have helped me all the way back then, Pricing for Lettering Artists. This self-paced course was created for any lettering artist who struggles with putting a price on their skills, talent, and their time. You'll discover what it takes to convert the skill of lettering into the service that you can sell. I'll break down the different ways that you can price what you create and the differences between pricing services, products, and productized services. By the end of the course, you will have a better understanding of how to take the incredible skill that you have as a lettering artist and put a price tag on it. This course is open for pre-sale, like right now, and due to be served on the 15th of August, so only a short few weeks away. Once it's released, the price will go up. So if you're hungry to learn about pricing your lettering, head to easyaspiepricing.com/pricing for lettering artists. So there you have it, my 10 things Type taught me about pricing. Told you we'd get there. Now, if you've enjoyed this meal, I'd love to meet you on Instagram where we all hang out. Send me a DM at Your Pricing Queen so we can share all things pricing, puns, and, pie. Thank you so much for joining me at my table today. It was wonderful to share this meal with you, and I want to take this opportunity to remind you that as someone who showed up today and took the first step, you already have all the ingredients to succeed. All you need is the method, maybe a pinch of salt and a dash of courage, and just giving yourself time to have your skills and talents rise to the top. Thanks again, and bon appetit.